Ensara TV ekerenga kiomogusi.
That narrative of Lamu is out there, it's too far, it's finished. You see what these young men are doing? Now they can give you real-time pictures of what is happening in Lamu. So please don't come here and tell us how IFMIS doesn't work, because out of 47 counties, Lamu can't be the only one. You understand where we are? We are now leaving those excuses. Next time, come and tell us, we have got a new system. It was a bit, maybe even a little expensive, but our IFMIS system is functional. If you talk with Dr. Kinyua, he'll tell you previously there were outstanding issues which they have sorted out. IFMIS eventually is actually finally owned by the Treasury. Before it was not. So don't make us begin to check what you've been doing. Thank you.
Senator Sifuna, you had sought the mic?
Treasury is mine. You know, I've heard the senator speak of Starlink. What do you mean by a backup for a system that requires constant supply of electricity? Because if, say, you are on the Safaricom network, I don't know which network they're on. Which network are you on? Safaricom. So if the assembly has a backup for themselves, how does that help with the ISP, the supplier themselves?
From what the county assembly has been complaining of is not actually the internet but the power disruptions.
That's what I'm saying. So
which now affect the connectivity. So it is not about the network itself, but the power disruptions.
So you advise them to get a generator, because you see, if I have power in my house and my ISP has no power to power their system, how does that help me?
Through you, Chair. Solar.
Onyonka, you're missing the question.
Yes.
I have solar.
Yes.
My supplier for the service does not have solar. What happens?
I don't know.
Yeah, then it means that you must find a supplier with proper redundancy.
You know, Chair.
Senator Gataya.
Chair, it's very sad when we are celebrating our 12th year of devolution, we are still struggling with the basics. Power, insufficient, blackout. I don't know, Senator Lamu, do you agree with that, those kind of allusions from the speaker that you have had those challenges? 12 years down the line, you cannot have looked for a solution, permanent solution to look for those things? 12 years down the line, Speaker, you do not have a solution? Those basics, more issues here and there?
Yeah, if I can give a practical example. I live in Shela village, where is the most tourist destination in Coast region. But when the power goes off, we have no internet of Safaricom. But I took advice from Honorable Senator there that there is other space whereby we are going to work on that. Even when he mentioned about the solar, we are working on that also, because last year we faced the challenge and we managed to solve it. This year we are working very hard, and we are coming up with a program whereby this power issue should not affect us doing our work, but it really affects. We've lost so much money. Myself, I spoiled my TV. You can't imagine, the electricity comes 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, goes off. Even sometimes we ask ourselves, is this been done, purposely, or is it a coincidence? And what about the coincidence it is? So we are having a challenge. But I want to promise the committee here that next time we are going to be here, this challenge also we will be solving out, because we are working on solving all the challenges that we have in the office. And despite also our Assembly is not even in the island, whereby most of the infrastructure are. Our assembly is in mainland, whereby now is when they are doing all this infrastructure, and it's been done a bit slowly. But I want to assure you, Chair, that next time we are here, we are going to be more advanced in terms of technology and all other things.
Yeah, we must are going to advise you. I think we must get rid of this inferiority complex that we sometimes have about Lamu. Lamu is a great place. Lamu is one of the oldest cities in Africa. Let us not come to Nairobi feeling inferior. Let us not be intimidated by the things we are seeing in other counties. Lamu can be great, but it can only be great if you open your minds to the possibility of being great. And I think that's when the Rainbow Coalition government knew that. And that's why the Vision 2030 was to make Lamu Isiolo the center of Kenya, shifted from Nairobi. But that can only happen if you dispel those myths of smallness and inferiority. So I want you guys to be confident that Lamu can be great. I don't want you guys to come to Nairobi to tell us things that sound like should be happening in a third-rate country. We understand the issues of power, but please come to the Finance Committee with a proposal to solarize your operations. The Finance Committee, some members are here. They would be more than happy to give you a little ceiling on development to set up solar as redundancy. If you need to change your ISPs, that's your decision. But Senator Ituku, you must encourage your assembly and your members of county assembly that they deliberately perpetuate a theory of smallness when they think that these small problems cannot be resolved. Lamu is a great place. Let's not think small about it. Senator.
Yes, thank you, Chair. There is that tendency of us maybe feeling that we are left behind. But I want to agree with you that people need to be very confident and walk head high, because we are in this country as one. Kenya is for all of us. Chair, we are undergoing a lot of problems currently as we speak, because Lamu is the only place that I think in the entire country whereby you will see people using generators instead of the grid connection, the national grid connection.
Many counties in northern Kenya. Actually, that is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so we have that problem, my Chair. There is a word called Kiunga. Currently, as we speak now, Chair, it has been maybe around 6 months since when they had an electricity. So they only uses generator and personal generators. That is what they do, all solars. So, but no, in those places there are some schools, there are some hospitals that need to have some national grid connection. But currently, as we speak, there is nothing like that, Chair. So that is Lamu is a place that need to be looked with both eyes by the government, because that's why you are sometimes hearing me say that I might end up shifting to the other opposition party, which is looks a little bit bigger, because I want to bash this CS for energy. He has never been to Lamu, and I am recommending that if there is somebody to be sacked by William Ruto this time, CS for energy be sacked, because he has never been to Lamu at any one given day. In fact, Ruto has visited Lamu many times than the CS. So you maybe even wonder who is bigger than the other, who is supposed to be privy to so many problems that are facing the people of Lamu. Is it the minister or the president? But Chair, I also want to say that this is a topic for another day. But I need tomorrow I'm contributing in that bill, that motion that was brought to the floor of the House by the leader of majority. I will recommend the sacking of CS for energy, because he doesn't even qualify to be the CS because of the many bad things that he has done to the people of Lamu. So therefore, I support that, Chair. Lamu is a great county, and the government has to look it with both eyes. Chair, I submit.
Senator Gituku, I second. Because and you are still doing CBC.
Yes, Chair.
Where you are supposed to go to download stuff from the internet, print, and take to school.
Yes.
Or which curriculum do the children of Lamu subscribe? Are they still on 844?
No, the national curriculum.
CBC.
CBC.
If it is the same CBC where I saw my son yesterday download stuff from the internet and print, how does a child of Lamu do it?
That is now the question, Chair. We are very marginalized. Actually, these things need to be actually, I thought maybe, Chair, you had brought media people here so that they can also highlight the challenges that people of Lamu are facing. And I, as the Senator for Lamu, are very disappointed.
Fine, members. We hear the problems, but there are some solutions that you need to demonstrate. You have shown you are talking to the Treasury. If it's power, come to us. We can approve a small expenditure on solar. But Auditor General, so keep this in view, because managing 300 million in IFMIS should not be a big problem. Some counties are doing it, and yet they've got budgets of $1 billion.
We'll do so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We go to unsupported domestic travel and subsistence allowances. This one is also unresolved?
Yes, it's still unresolved. And the figure in the financial statement was 54,289,180 shillings, where 15 officers were paid interest of over 2 million, totaling to 57,326,524 to attend workshops, training, and other official duties outside the county, while 4 others were paid 5 million, over 5 million during the year under review. But the breakdown of doing their purposes and were not provided for audit review. There was also an issue of a company that was paid 1,654,000 for processing of travel documents and ticketing, but the procurement process documentation were not provided. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and the response from the County Assembly is quite worrying, and I will then require that you read out your response. Clerk?
Mr. Chair,
no, just read your written response. There's a reason why. The management response on 2.0. Clerk, can you proceed and read your management response?
Well, the response read like this. All the documents were provided to the auditors and there was no complaint about not being provided with a breakdown of payments. More so, the query was not raised in the exit meeting nor in the management letter. It was raised 9 months later after the audit. No appendix was provided to us. We also raised a complaint letter to the Office of the Auditor General. I want to add something, Mr. Chair.
No, first read your, just read your management response.
Whenever the County Assembly of Lamu committees went to travel on official duties, one of the staff accompanying the team will carry out the travel imprest for the traveling team, and the imprest holder staff will facilitate the MCAs and staff team to ensure that the committee is facilitated efficiently and timely, and the imprest holder will account for the imprest when they return back to the office. All the imprest warrants and payment schedules were provided for audit, and no complaint was raised of not being furnished with the vouchers and the attachments. A local company was paid 1.6 million for processing of travel documents and ticketing, but the details of the procurement process for this company were not availed. This is the question. That was my answer there, Mr. Chair. This is another question.
Have you, sorry, where have you reached?
I've reached at the 1.6 million. All documents were provided to auditors and there were no complaints about documentation not made available to them. This audit query was not raised during the exit meeting nor in the management letter. Our inquiry with the audit team about this issue they had no answer. County Assembly of Lamu pre-qualified suppliers and service providers, and only Shimasi Travel applied to provide the services. Lamu is a rural county and not yet hosting many air ticketing businesses. Shimasi Travel is the only provider for air ticketing services in Lamu with International Air Transport Authority IATA certification, and the County Assembly is operating a framework service agreement contract with Shimasi Travel in the provision of air ticketing services. The audit of the financial ending June 30th, 2023, dropped from management letter.
Now, this is why I said the response. Senator West Pokot, we apologize that the session with West Pokot County Assembly was postponed following their request, the request of the County Assembly to postpone. But we appreciate that you are here. So the meeting with their County Assembly has been deferred. And I don't know whether they had copied their letter to the Senator, but you need to provide the Senator with a copy of that letter. So we apologize that it appears you did not get that information, but we are happy to see you. Always happy to see you.
Chairman, imekuwa mazoea. They have postponed almost 3 meetings.
Yes. So we shall deal with it properly. So clerk, furnish the Senator with a copy of that letter, and will advise us on the kind of discipline that we need to mete out on those habitual I wanted to use a term that might be unparliamentary. Asante. So, Auditor General, the Assembly says something sprang up in the audit report which was not there. How can that be possible?
Can I talk?
Mr. Chairman, is not the entire picture, and I would explain that during the exit meeting, the audit findings that were indicated in the minutes that they have attached. Number 1 is on domestic travel and training. So that issue was raised during the exit meeting. Even though it was not in the management letter that has been attached, the review process is such that when the team on the ground does a management letter and the supervisor reviews the management letter and the documentation and realizes that some issues may have been omitted, the supervisor is at liberty to do that. So in this situation, the revision was done by the Deputy Auditor General, and there are coaching notes to the auditors on the ground that were dated 5th of January 2023, where the Deputy Auditor General raised very many issues, and that is the reason as to why this issue was included in the draft audit report, which was sent to the County Assembly for response on 10th of January 2023. So at that point, even though the issue was not in the management letter, based on the review that was done in the office, they were supposed to have addressed the issues.
Now, this is an easy thing. The Auditor General has said 57 million. Provide that breakdown, whether it was in the initial audit report or not.
Yes, we will.
And have you provided it for the Senate?
No.
So then why did you make this journey from Lamu? Because it's a simple matter. I don't want an argument between you and the Auditor General.
Yeah,
the easier thing for you to do is we spent 57 million. This is how we spent it. And then that's the end of the matter. Unless you are alleging improper motives on the part of the Auditor General.
No, we are not.
And they are human. So they can make errors. So what position are you taking? Improper motives, or you are going to tell us who was paid 57 million?
In review with him, I went through this management letter and I came to realize that information was not provided to them. So I do have that information, and I promised this committee I have that information. I just need to go and retrieve it from the archives. So if I can be given 30 days, I can provide that information to the Auditor General to their satisfaction. That one I can give.
You are giving yourself directions. Allow the chair to give you directions.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I request some time to go and retrieve this information, and I'll provide to the court.
But if this thing you saw it in your report, what else were you waiting for the Senate to tell you to provide the support? This is the biggest amount queried. 57 million is more than 10% of your budget. Your budget was 384 million.
Yeah, but this is the impress where a staff takes the money and then it gives to the MCAs.
Yes, so that should be the easiest thing to do. 57 million paid to 15 officers. How difficult can that be? Or are you still going to blame electricity?
Nah.
Senator Mariam Omar, you have not gone on record. Please go on record.
Senator Mariam Omar, member of the committee. Chair, to add on these ones, Auditor General, if this is not in the management letter, how do you write to them to raise this issue of this query? Is it by verbally or formally? Because all the queries are supposed to be under management letter.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair. Indeed, the audit process, and that's what I started by saying, is that we set teams on the ground and we are in the office. So when they have carried out the audit and they bring back the management letter draft plus the schedules and the information they have gathered from the ground, in the review process, which happens at the Deputy Director of Audit level, Director of Audit level, Deputy Auditor General, and even up to the Auditor General's level, if some information is found to have been missing, then that the reviewer of that audit report is at liberty to include that information. So what happened in this case, and I have the coaching notes that were done by the Deputy Auditor General on 5th of January, the auditors on the ground were questioned about the failure to include this information. And when they were unable to explain that aspect, that issue was included in the draft report, which is given by the Deputy Auditor General. So, and that information was communicated to the accounting officer. So, and then it
how is it communicated to the
in writing through a draft audit report. In writing.
In draft.
Yes.
Now, when you do that final reports and on the draft, because if you inquiry, because the level of audit is in the office, because the way you are saying, is to the client to maybe to verify before you make it draft, because it's supposed to be, this thing is one way, is a process which is done by you. After that is by respond by the client. So if at all you cannot make in the audit, the management letter, and you end up put it in a draft, before even you put it in the draft, is there a way an auditor can go back to the client to verify? Because this is something you have suggested in your office. Chair, this thing is suggested in the office of the auditors. They are supposed to go back to the client to say, this is what we omitted. We wanted to see this document before they draft, because that is drafting. It will be 14 days before they draft a letter. So is there any correspondence between you guys so that it ends up in draft reports?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is the accounting officer, and they were given time to respond. So what happens when the officers on the ground come out with information? They also attach documents. They gather evidence, and that is the evidence that when I'm back in the office, I review. So in my review, if I come across information that is supposed to have been queried but has not been queried, I'm supposed to sit down with the auditors, raise these issues, and they respond. And this is what the Deputy Auditor General did on 5th of January. He wrote to the officer on the ground in Garissa that time, because it was being audited from Garissa. And the officers responded, affirming that indeed this information should have been in the management letter, but inadvertently it was left out. So the Deputy Auditor General, with that information, placed a draft audit report, which was addressed to the accounting officer, and he was given time to respond.
Okay, let's leave it at that point. We want arrests of over 2 million. We want to know whether that interest has been surrendered. We want to know the 4 officers who were paid 5 million each during the year under review, so that we can ask Patricia and the EACC to compel recovery if no surrenders have been done. That is basic. That is what we are interested in right now. And Auditor General, I don't know whether you have that data.
I have the information, and
how much of it has been recovered?
We still don't have any document proving recovery, but the accounting officer said, when I saw this response, I asked him what information they needed, which they didn't have, and I sent him the schedule of the names and the amounts outstanding from each officer.
Because we don't want to give him an opportunity to go and make up tickets, travel tickets, to go and make up receipts. That's a risk.
I gave him a list, the name of the officer and the amount outstanding against that officer.
So we shall direct as follows. The auditor has provided you with a list of the 15 plus the additional 4 officers who are paid public funds, and the money, according to the OAG, has not been recovered. Within 7 days, you're asking for 30 days. We are not going to grant you 30 days. If the surrender has been done, the records are with you. Provide them to the Auditor General. When we are writing our report, we shall analyze your response, and if we find that there is part of it that has not been surrendered, we shall direct the EACC to move in and safeguard public funds. I think that is our position on that. The other issues of audit process are neither here nor there. We shall then proceed to issue number 3, again on unsupported payments on staff, car loan and mortgage. Mr. Speaker, what do you want to say?
Chair, because most of these things, they were at the time that myself, I was not a speaker at that time, he was not the clerk at that time.
It doesn't matter, the county was running.
Yes, so
the impressed management systems were going on.
We are just,
Assembly was receiving money and spending.
We are just requesting 2 weeks, Mr. Chair, so that we can provide.
Fine, we shall give you 14 days. If we go to a report writing when you have not made that response, our directions shall be that the 15 named plus the 4, we transfer the names to the EACC for relevant action.
Thank you, Chair.
On staff, car loan and mortgage, OAG, this is also outstanding.
Thank you, Chair. Before we get over ticketing farm, where the procurement documents were also not provided, possibly we can also give
that also has not been provided?
Has not been provided.
Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, after review with him, I felt like we didn't give the documents. I've been able to retrieve my documents here, and I'll request you to accept these as documents.
I am not going to accept it. You cannot you cannot provide fresh evidence at this point in time. Aren't you the gentleman who told us you are an expert in maritime law?
But this, yes, I did.
Yeah, so you understand certain basic components of procedure. Okay. There's no way you can walk in with evidence at this point. So if you think it's something worth looking at, share it with the Auditor General within those 14 days.
Okay.
So that we're assured that the 1.6 million has not been stolen.
Thank you, sir.
Have they prepared the car loan and mortgage fund statements?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they prepared for the 2022-2023 financial year, but they did not prepare the financial statements for the previous years. Indeed, this fund was started, I think, way back in 2016. So they needed to prepare financial statements from the beginning. So the financial statements they brought to us attracted a disclaimer because the opening balances could not be confirmed. So the issue still has not been sorted out.
So what you're querying is 40 million. How 40 million was used?
Yes, and who got the money and the breakdown and the accounts that were charged.
Clerk, that should be easy. You detailing who has been a recipient of that fund should not be difficult. It's something that can be done on 1 page of an Excel spreadsheet. Have you provided the schedule of those who got the 40 million? Or do you want to read your management response? Your management response, you have referred to an SRC circular. That does not address the audit query. The Auditor General says management did not provide sufficient appropriate documentation to support utilization of the initial deposit of 40 million transferred to you're supposed to be answering.
Mr. Chairman, this was money disbursed in the second assembly. I was not even in the third assembly, it was in the second assembly. And the money was given to the bank, and then the members applied through the bank. Because now we are here where we are, what I would suggest to the committee is, as you say, it should be just a one page to be given. And within these 14 days, I will provide that list. That is, I can assure the committee that.
Why did you come to Nairobi when you're not prepared? Because we can send you back home, you come back in 14 days. Because this now you're wasting the time of the Senate.
That is the only issue that we had a problem. Anything else, we are okay.
Isn't this the third issue where you are asking for time?
No, the travel agent, and I don't need time because I have the evidence with me. It's just because of the procedure is not acceptable. I have the evidence with me here, with the travel agency issue.
So you are not prepared for this meeting?
We are
and Senator, this was the same situation we found ourselves in the last time the Assembly appeared. We terminated because everything you're asking for more time.
This was the only, this has been recurring queries. Other than these queries, there's no other recurring ones.
Can you tell the people of Lamu who received the 40 million? That's all we are asking. Already we have dealt with 57 million. Now there is 40 million. That is 97 million Kenya shillings. 97 million. And you guys are playing around like it's nothing. 97 million is 30% of your budget. It cannot be treated in such a casual manner, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman, through you, I don't know what happened with the documentation, but I was a member of the County Assembly, second Assembly, and I received my car grant. The problem was, as far as I inherited this issue, the car grant came after the money was sent to the bank as a mortgage and not as a car grant. Then after the money was already to the bank...
Order, Mr. Speaker. There's a point of order from Senator Adulo.
Chair, I think we don't need that kind of explanation. If that is the position, you should have put it in writing. You are not responding to the query. And it is very clear the committee wants the 40 million, period. We don't need that explanation. If you are unable to actually provide evidence, then you should tell the committee that we can't get any information on that particular allocation.
This should be a very, very Speaker. It does not, we don't require stories. And in your written response, you're just referring to an SRC circular, which does not deal with the matter. Give us a schedule saying that you deposited 40 million and another 60 million was deposited, and these are the beneficiaries. This person took a loan, this person took a grant. For those who took loans, we must be sure that the loans have been repaid, because that's also another problem in most of the assemblies, that the loans were given, but they've never been recovered. Even though this will be a matter to be dealt with when you look at the mortgage and car loan fund statements, but we must provide directions on this because it's not small money. It's 40 plus 60, that's 100 million. That is 1/3. That's 1/3 of your total budget. So, I want to understand, how do we get this information? Or we just declare this as theft?
No, I think a very simple information, and I wonder why it's a one page, as you say, because personally myself here, I was an MCA, and I received my car grant. So I'm surprised even me why they don't have such a schedule, and all other colleagues which I served with them on the second assembly, I know all of them got their grant. It's a very simple, so I think the only thing I would request, Chair, even if I'm going to do it personally, to go to the bank, because Gulf was handling these funds, and they will be able to give us all the information. We have shift, I agree, we have shift from Lamu to Mokowe, and a lot of things maybe they were misplaced somewhere, but this is a straight information and is a straight
Let me cut you
response.
short. Have you had a meeting before you came to this committee, going through the query? Because you are shifting blames to I don't know who. You are the CEO and the chair of the board. And we would have expected you to have sat as a team to look through the query. Did you do that?
So we had...
But from your narration, it's like you don't even know why the answer is not there. Queries that you are responding to. Thank you.
Challenges of small assemblies, it cannot be an excuse. We then shall direct that in those 14 days, provide the Auditor General with that schedule. Because it appears you don't understand the auditor when the auditor points out an unconformance. It is only when you come to the Senate that you realize what you should have done. So in those 14 days, let's find out who are the beneficiaries of that fund, and for those that were granted loans, whether the loans have been repaid. If the loans have not been repaid, again, we shall refer them to the EACC for recovery. Let's go to the other audit matters. Under budgetary control and performance, we shall take note of that. Under project implementation status, we shall also take note of your response, because you're saying that it was because of late, was it non-funding? It was because of lack of funding for those projects.
Yes, because the funding.
It would have been much easier if you would have listed those 7 projects. OIG, do you have them? The list of the 7 out of the 10 projects?
That I will have to...
With a budget of 144 million which were not implemented.
I will have to go and check again on that.
Yeah, I think it's useful to disclose that to the Senate.
Okay.
So that we are able to see how they are prioritizing their projects.
Thank you. Thank you.
On late exchequer release, we take note of that, and we shall continue pushing the Treasury to do timely releases and resolve prior year matters. That is what we are dealing with now. We go to the report on lawfulness and effectiveness in use of public resources. The first issue cited is nugatory operating expenditure, and this is with regard to contributions to County Assembly Forum and Society of Clerks at the Table, SOCAT. We do agree with the Auditor General that this is a nugatory expenditure because those the County Assembly Fora and Society of Clerks at the Table, even though they are registered bodies, but there is no legal provision for public funds to be diverted to them. The Senate has taken a position on that, and if you continue to make contributions to those bodies, you run the risk of being surcharged for the amounts. Again, I must repeat that we have given the County Assemblies Forum an opportunity to come before this committee. I was with Speaker Sebulei of Elgeyo Marakwet in Eldoret when the Senate Liaison Committee retreated. I again extended an invitation to him to come before this committee and to tell us what they need to be done for CAF. We have created an opportunity for SOCAT to come before us. They have I think we have invited them twice. And both times, they have found a reason not to appear before us. Our position remains that we shall not support these transfers to CAF and SOCAT, and we shall be surcharging the responsible accounting officers. The next issue is on lack of diversity, on staff ethnicity. You are saying that 55% were from the dominant ethnic community. This seems to be one of the lowest percentages we are seeing, because most counties are quite ethnically homogeneous. Most counties you'll find 90% are from one community. But what do you have to say on that, Mr. Speaker?
Since I become the chair, we are progressive on solving that matter, and Right now, you can see one recently when cohesion committee came to Lamu. We have balance. If you look at the report that they have, we have managed to balance a lot, and we are progressing toward addressing the issue, Mr. Chair.
Senator for Lamu, is this a matter that I think you mentioned that the committee was in Lamu?
Yes, Chair.
Was it addressed by the committee?
Actually, it was the same issue that was being addressed by the Committee for Cohesion and National Integration and Equal Opportunities. And Chairman, I can confirm that it is a true reflection that they have improved, Chair. And we are looking forward to the Assembly solving the small issues that we saw that are pending. But for the time being, Chair, I can confirm that so far so good.
Okay, so we shall be guided by the committee, but this should be made a target for progressive realization. Non-submission of car loan and mortgage fund for audit. Auditor General, you have said that they've just started doing it in which year?
2022-2023.
Who is the administrator of the fund? Who is the administrator of the car loan and mortgage fund? The clerk who is failing. Are you the administrator of the car loan and mortgage fund?
Yes, I am. I mean, technically I am, but what we do with this car loan is the money is given to the bank, and then the bank will look at the criteria, how to approve and all that.
Yeah, but who has the responsibility to report on it?
It's me.
So you're the one who has failed, the County Assembly of Lamu.
Let me ask, why is it that the money is deposited with the bank? Because like in our case, the money by the parliament, so and it's directly deducted from our salaries. So why is it that you are giving your money to the bank?
I don't think we have a capacity to, like the secretariat, to handle that issue. So to us, it was easier to do that way. The bank will use all their criteria in approving. Or
Auditor, what do you say about that? Because that is where there is an issue.
There is the accountants, the finance department, and they can be able to deal with it.
Yeah. Why should you relegate your responsibility to another institution?
this was done my tenure here. When this car loan started, I wasn't the clerk of the county assembly. So it was the previous fund administrator. Me, I'm a fund administrator.
What are you currently doing? Are you using the same formula?
The same formula, sir.
You see, you can do outsourcing of administration. Ability remains yours as a fund administrator. And the responsibility to do financial statements cannot go to the bank. It remains with you. We have seen counties even doing leasing arrangements, even for equipment. But it does not take away the accountability from the county.
But clerk, I'm sorry, Chair. I'm sure they are getting some fee out of that process. Why do you want to give those institutions that money? And it is taxpayers' money. Yeah?
And definitely when the money sits with the bank, sometimes it's put in certain called deposit accounts.
Yeah.
Or where do the proceeds go? That's what the fund administrator should report. Senator Mtata.
The issue of fixed deposits and the fees. How does the bank compensate itself for the services it renders? And maybe they could tell us how much it is it a percentage of the amount? And whether the same is not enough to hire somebody to do the work from the county itself.
Clerk.
3%.
3% of what amount?
3%. Actually, the bank is not charging us anything. The bank, if we give them the money, the bank charges the member 3%. That 3% is the bank earning that money. Because the bank is actually not taking no risk. That's our own money there. But to manage that, it takes 3% from the member.
And what is the size of the fund?
Which was 40 million.
40 million. So 3% comes to 1.2 million?
No, but that is the member pays the bank, which is not us.
Yes, it is what is called a cost that is avoidable. It is avoidable because if you are doing it internally, then the member would not pay 3% more.
Why should you stress your members? Why should you stress your members by imposing onto them that extra cost? Just to benefit a private enterprise when you could do it administratively, and the cost would still, the salaries you pay your staff would not be passed over to your members, and the member would be happier with a more affordable car loan than having to pay all that money to a private entity, which has got no benefit to the county assembly.
I agree with you, member. But maybe the mistake I did was I didn't do anything after when I took over. It was already done, so I didn't do anything after that. That is the mistake I did.
But you went through a handover process, Chair. At the handover process, what did you do? You didn't identify these issues and address them. There was a handover process whereby you then took responsibility for what the earlier administration had done. I think the best thing is to give us a period within which you are going to rectify the situation, so that you don't have to have your members penalized. You have a duty of care to protect your members, and the duty of care cannot allow you to expose your members to a bank. So maybe you could give us a timeline within which you could maybe be able to rectify. Give to the chair a timeline when you could rectify the issue.
Clerk?
I think, Chair, there is a new system which is coming in that they are calling a single account. So all the money will be going to one account, and I think this issue will not be there anymore in the future, according to my...
No, that will not solve the problem. What you have done, you have made an administrative decision that for your mortgage and car loan, you are ceding it to the bank, and you are claiming that you don't have internal capacity. But by ceding it to the bank, you are making the facility more expensive for the member, 3% more expensive. We are not telling you to recruit someone to manage that thing, because you have 20 members and 47 staff. You don't need a full-time employee. That can be added onto the job description of someone within the organization, but then make the facility 3% cheaper for your members. So there needs to be a value for money assessment. Auditor General, this matter, Senator Omtata has always talked about it, that part of your audit responsibility is to assure the Senate and the public that public resources have been used efficiently and effectively. The value for money aspect. Is it value for money for them to run it through the bank, or is it value for money for them to do it internally, looking at the size of the organization? You need to make that assessment and advise us.
We'll do that meeting the financial statements. At that point, that's when we'll be able to look at the cost of managing that outside, and then we'll be able to see the value for money aspect. And that's why this issue was raised here, because we didn't know how much was being spent on the management of the fund.
So they charge the beneficiaries 3%. I'm sure that money does not sit idle. That money could be in government bonds where they are earning 17%. So is that fair?
So, Chair, if I may ask, how do you deal with your payroll? Is it through a bank or you do it internally? And if you do it internally, wouldn't managing this fund be part of managing your payroll?
You know, Chair, I even raise this question and ask the former Director of Finance to advise, how can we give the money to the bank, and the member, when he takes that money has been deducted from his salary or her salary. Yet, as Honorable Omtata here said, members have been stressed up through the banks. Even by the time they get the mortgage, they've already, elapsed 2 years or 1.5 years. Just bring this document, bring that document. And the advice that I got is that there is no way you can do it internally. That was the advice I got. So it's good from the opening chair that you say when we come here we learn so many things. Today I've learned something as head of this institution, that these funds could be managed internally just by few of our staff, which most of the time they are just, around the offices and maybe they have enough time to do such a work. And we could have saved a lot of money from the members. They are losing the money while they are not supposed to lose the money. So I think this issue, I'm going to look at it when I go back and make sure that is not going to be dealt the way is dealt. One thing I want to say, Chair, for those who have been to Lamu County Assembly before, and if you come today, you will realize a lot of changes. There were so many things that even my brother here, my senator, he was an MCA. He saw the assembly the way it was operating and most of the things. But since I become the chair or the speaker, I believe even him, my senator, has been able now to see a lot of changes which is been going on in the assembly. And every day I'm learning new things. So today I want to thank this committee that have came to realize something which it was supposed to be done by ourselves, and we were making our members to lose money for no reason.
Now, Speaker, the Auditor General is a consultant for all of us. The control of budget is a consultant for all of us. The Treasury is a consultant for all of us. Even the EACC has a preventive mandate. They don't only come when money has been stolen, they come to prevent that kind of risk. So please make use of these institutions. They will give you the best practice across the other counties. Senator Mtata had asked about timelines. What timelines are we looking at? Because I hope you did not sign long-term agreements with the bank, which will make it expensive to transfer the fund internally.
Car loan, or mortgage. So maybe if on this one, if we can, once we go back to the office, I don't want to give a promise that I'm not in a position to know how it is. So if I just go back to the office and see, but I will make sure that I work very close with the Auditor General here to advise me and to guide me on this so that my members are not losing money, and also the institution also.
This is our directive, because you don't want to commit yourself. When you go back to Lamu, write a letter. I don't know whether this should be to the Controller or to the Auditor General. Controller, you have given advisories on fund management in the past?
Yes, Chair.
Do you think you're in a position, if they requested for advice on how to manage their Kalon fund, is that part of your mandate?
Yes, it's part of our mandate. We normally give advisories because even the regulations, the acts, they forward to us for review before they start withdrawing the funds. And sorry, the major risk of managing the funds of the county assembly is the recovery if the members are not re-elected. That is a major risk which should be addressed, because some they attach. I mean, they give collateral which is not for which the value is not the same as the mortgage that they have been given. That is a major risk. The recovery if the members are not re-elected.
Yeah. So, Clerk, you need to seek an advisory opinion from the control of budget. As we have told you what our observation has been in other county assemblies, but we want a proper formal advisory from COB, and we will give you, when you go back, don't take more than 1 month to seek that advisory. Then when we'll be looking at the fund statements, you must demonstrate that you wrote to COB, you received a response, and you are implementing the recommendations of the control of budget. Senator Kagituko?
Chair, I agree with you that for the sake of maybe this committee, for the sake of the follow-up to this committee to the County Assembly of Lamu, I would suggest that if they do the letter, they copy the committee.
Yes, please copy the clerk of the Senate because it's a directive that has come from the Senate when you're doing the letter. Fine, let's proceed then to flagged failure to establish an internal audit function.
The only issue is the information they gave is of one officer. Ideally, we needed to know the rank. How is the internal audit facilitated to work? Because we find that one officer undertaking the function of internal audit, the controls will still be a bit weak. And the requirement is that that officer should be of a senior level. So that information has not been provided, but we confirm that there is already an appointment of a
it's a redesignation.
Yes, a redesignation.
The response is quite interesting. Clerk, can you read the first sentence in your response?
I have some people.
County Assembly.
Proceed, Clerk.
The County Assembly of Lamu advertised for the internal auditor and got no response.
Just leave it there. You applied, you advertised for an internal auditor and nobody responded. Out of the millions of Gen Zs who are jobless, there was no single person who responded to an advert for an internal auditor. Is that a matter of fact, Clerk? And if that is a matter of fact, can you show us the vacancy notice? Because you're not going to take everything you tell us without questioning. When was the vacancy posted? Where was it posted? I cannot believe that in the Republic of Kenya, a county assembly would advertise for an internal auditor and get no response. Clerk?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer here, Mr. Chairman. That question you asked, the other day we advertised for audit committee. We received no response.
Those are different. Audit committee and internal auditor are two different things.
Yes.
We are dealing with the internal auditor.
Chair.
Senator Gitu.
I wanted to ask the...
He just sent us a resignation the other day that he's got a job in Nairobi. But before that, when we are doing this internal audit, he was still the internal auditor there.
So you don't have an internal auditor following that resignation?
Yes.
Where is the evidence that you put up an advert for internal auditors and no one responded? Because if that is your problem, even members of this committee can propose to you people who can play that role. You have submitted this to the Senate under oath.
Yes.
Is it true that you did an advert and there was no response?
When I entered the office, this is the information I was given. I have no intention.
Where is the evidence? If you are given the information, it should have been supported by evidence.
Yeah. But I have no intention of lying to the committee or to give wrong information to them.
I do not want to tell the Senate that in Lamu, they looked for an internal auditor and no one responded, because it makes nonsense of the current calls by young people over unemployment.
Yeah,
and you must be very sensitive to what's going on in the country. Are you going with this first paragraph, or do you want it expunged from the records?
Let it be expunged from the records, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll be guilty of an offense, lying under oath and misleading the committee. As it may be, Mr. Njenga has left the organization. So what is your plan?
Since he sent a letter, we want to advertise, and we want to collaborate with the county executive, maybe use the internal audit for the time being.
This is a very critical function, and we cannot allow you to operate without an internal auditor. And this is a matter that we direct must be resolved within 1 quarter. 1 quarter meaning 3 months. Mr. Speaker, you are the chair of the County Assembly Service Board. you must make sure that that appointment is done. Now, there's the other one of the audit committee. So far, have you managed to get people to sit in your audit committee? Clerk?
We have advertised for this position and we get no response, and we are touching in our management letter this one. We did advertise not long ago. So what we're thinking is, the same, again, to collaborate with the county executive, with the internal audit committee, and until we have ours.
I think on the audit committee, we must have a conversation with the SRC, because it's the reason why people don't apply for that. Here you have attached a newspaper advert. When was what is the date of this advert?
I think it was 29th, 30th. It's a Star magazine of the weekend, 29th, 30th of March.
Which year?
This year.
We must take a different view on this. First of all, we must make it attractive for people to be members of the audit committee, but we must also encourage ISPAC. I think ISPAC has told us they have excess members. They've got a lot of members who can provide pro bono service. And this is an area where we must discuss with ISPAC why we do not have audit committees in some counties because the remuneration is low. This is something that Dr. Munywa, I think if we talk to ISPAC around a pro bono approach, so that each county, at least you can have some members of ISPAC volunteering, because the qualifications you require certain professional qualifications.
Yes.
This should be part of their giving back mandate.
I agree with you, Chair. That is something they can showcase the accounting profession in Kenya. And I will follow it up in the Treasury to see whether that can reach ISPAC.
Yeah, so since we have direct contact with ISPAC, Clerk, please take note of that. I think it would be fair to ask ISPAC to provide those services, and even LSK, because there are certain skills that the advocates can provide in those audit committees. This can be a pro bono, can be a CSR contribution by members of the professional bodies. ISPAC, LSK, IHRM, and even the supply chain management professions.
Chair, I think it would help if the committee can write to those professional bodies on the same. It would be better even as Treasury pursues the matter, we follow up from the committee's recommendation.
Okay, yeah, it's something we can pick up, because I know, for example, LSK has chapters in almost every county. ISPAC might also be having regional chapters. So it's something that they can do to help our institutions. The fixed asset register, is it updated now, OAG?
The information they are provided is that they have updated. So what I would request is that we put it in view, because we are just about to go and start the next cost cycle of audit. So we can keep it in view so that we can go in and verify indeed that they are tagged and it's up to date.
Okay, so we agree. We shall keep that in view. That brings us to the end of the report for 2022. Let's go back to 2021 and see whether there are cross-cutting issues. In the financial year ended 30th June 2021, what was your opinion, OAG?
That year, the adverse opinion.
On the basis for the adverse opinion, the first one was differences between trial balance and financial statements. That's the IFMIS matter.
Yes.
That we have already discussed, and we have already provided directions. The same issue that we have discussed, where we have said that the financial statements must be prepared, must be scrutinized, and a value for money audit must be undertaken.
Yeah.
The third issue was the payments to SOCAT and CAF. We have already pronounced ourselves on that, and will be recommending a surcharge for the nugatory expenditure. The fourth issue was unsupported acquisition of assets. OAG, has this been resolved? 2.7 million spent on construction of buildings. Or
documents have not been provided. We didn't get documents for that.
Maybe the client should tell us. 20. What was the response of the County Assembly? Clerk, what was your response on that matter? That is not the question. The question is project file with project details on past payments, contract agreement, contract amount, and BQs. That is what the Auditor General is asking for. It's not just a matter of it being paid. The Auditor General is asking, disclose why you are paying 2.7 million. You are saying it was a pending bill. Fine, it was a pending bill, but what are the details? What are the particulars of that pending bill? Do we have that disclosure anywhere here? Mr. Speaker, we need your, or clerk, otherwise we are going to conclude that 2.7 million was stolen in the Lamu County Assembly under the guise of pending bills.
Chair, this file or this specific document, the entire file is with the ESCC.
ESCC, Patricia?
From my records on Lamu, I did not get this particular one unless I get to confirm.
So, Speaker, what is a subject matter that ESCC is querying?
ESCC was having a query with the new chamber, whereby the request for the entire document regarding the new assembly, the buildings. So the file is there with the whole document.
When did investigations commence?
Long time.
How many years now?
I think more than 4 or 5 years before even I become the speaker.
Have you sought certified copies of, or have you written to ESCC to provide you with the documentation relating to this query? Because that's what you are supposed to do.
No, we haven't done that, Chair.
So we shall agree with ESCC that this money is suspected theft and they should continue with the investigation.
No, I think when I go back, I will have to write a letter and to find, or even to give us the copy of the file, so that we have this file. It was been taken before even I become in the office, Chair.
ESCC, I think there's a general concern nationally that we are not getting feedback on what gets into your system. So on this particular matter, I want you to find out the status of this file, the status of investigations, so that when we'll be writing our report, we are able to make the appropriate recommendation. If you're already seized of the matter, then we don't need to get into it. We just need to encourage you to provide results in the form of prosecution.
Well guided, Chair.
Chair.
Senator Mariam?
When you saw such kind of a query and there is an allegation of ACC coming in, you need also your actions, because you cannot write some paragraphs here and you say the file is with ESCC. There must be some action you have done, so that to see at least you have responded to the query. Chair.
Speaker?
We will work on that. Well-guided, Chair.
So we then move to the next response and resolve prior matters. Again, we'll take the written responses. Non-compliance with the law on fiscal responsibility on the wage bill. We believe that we need to amend the regulations because county assemblies do not do development. So the 35% threshold might not necessarily apply to county assemblies. On ethnic composition, I can see it was 59 and it had dropped to 55. So we shall go with the recommendation we made in that year. Delay in project implementation. Again, 5 out of 7 projects. I'm sure you're blaming budgets, but OAG, it's always important to disclose the planned projects.
Well guided, we do that.
Yeah. We go to controls. The audit committee, we have already discussed. Internal audit, we have discussed and given directions. Lack of ICT policies. Do you have ICT policies now?
Yes, Chair.
Auditor General, can you confirm that they have provided they have prepared the policies?
There is a copy that I've gone through.
Is it draft or it's approved?
It's not, I can't see any approval anywhere, but we are going to work with them and see.
Now, Clerk, you must again seek the help of the Treasury. Public enterprises, public bodies, in coming up with policies and certain guidelines. And I know Treasury has already provided guidelines on a number of policies, asset management. Have you done draft ICT policies?
Yes, I've seen it. It is there, and it has been communicated to the 47 county government for not really for them to adapt as it is, but to use it as a guideline so that they can come up with similar guidelines as per the template given.
So we shall direct the clerk to, as we directed, you write to COB, write to the Treasury, so that the Treasury can give you their library of policies. Then you can customize them. And we are giving you 1 quarter to do the correspondence to the Treasury, for Treasury to respond, and for you to domesticate those policies.
Yes, Chair, it is very easy because it's already in our website. So
yes, but I want there to be evidence that they have initiated.
Okay.
Let there be evidence, because otherwise it will be another Uswahili, where we are saying we are going to do it and we don't do it. So, Clerk, within 30 days, write to Treasury and let Treasury point you to their infrastructure library. Maintenance of cash book, these weaknesses, Auditor General, has it improved?
The issue is still there, the issue of maintaining of an Excel cash book with no security features. You know, the challenge is that you can make alterations or you can change figures and, you know, in the cash book. So even though it's there, the Excel cash book needs to have security features to prevent anybody from altering the information in there.
So you can keep this in view, and in your current year audit,
yes, we can
check whether the risks have been mitigated.
We'll do that.
That brings us to the end of the report for. We'll come back now to the final report for the year ended 2020. What was your opinion?
It was a qualified opinion.
Let's go to the basis of the opinion. The first one was use of goods and services. Hospitality supplies and services. There were missing records, including LPOs and payment schedules. Have these been provided?
The documents provided cannot adequately deal with the issues, mainly because we have raised an issue, a figure of 3,120,000. So when we have photos and work tickets which are not attached to any payment, you know, you'll not be able to track that these photos relate to the 3 million that we were talking about. But they have provided documents which the verification might not be of much assistance to us.
During this period, who was the clerk of the Assembly, Mr. Speaker?
It was Mboche Wanyuike.
And who was the head of finance?
It was Ahmed Kale.
Was Ahmed Kale a professional accountant?
Yes.
Even though his ISPAC number has not been indicated in the financial statements. Again, The financial statement for year 2020, the statement of receipts and payments only bear the signature of the clerk. What does that mean? Is this financial statement admissible?
I wouldn't know, Mr. Chair. I was not.
So, supporting documentation for the 3.1 million. Yes or no? Clerk.
Mr. Chair, this is the previous years, 2 years ago. I cannot say for certain, but I'm sure this documentation is there.
Have they been provided to the Auditor General? If they are there, have they been provided to the OAG? We reached the conclusion that 3.12 million was stolen from Lamu County Assembly in that financial year, and we shall be pronouncing ourselves on who takes that responsibility, and we'll be asking the EACC to follow up the matter. On domestic travel and subsistence, as queried, Auditor General, have you received documentation to support that expenditure?
Similarly, Mr. Chairman, the documents attached at Appendix 2 include a photo which you cannot relate with the amount, some documents, photocopies. The problem we find is that if we have listed an amount of 14 million, then when we are responding, we need to see payments of 14 million and the supporting documents so that you can say indeed the 14 million has been supported. So
how much of that 14 million has been broken down?
From the documents, we cannot tell how much.
Clerk, where is the supporting documentation for the 14.5 million? And we reached the conclusion that 14.5 million was stolen in Lamu County Assembly in that financial year, because it is your responsibility to provide records, evidence to mitigate the risks highlighted by the Auditor General. You cannot be looking for those records now. That is 14 million plus 3 million. Already we are on 17 million, which we suspect to have been stolen in the County Assembly. On training expenses, million, out of which 10 million were not supported with relevant documentation. OAG, has the 10 million been supported?
This documentation cannot support. We are not able to align these documents with the 10 million because there's no payment voucher copy. You can't tell whether these documents are supporting any of the payments among the 10 million.
So that was 3 million plus 14 million, 17 plus another 13 million, 30 million shillings stolen from the County Assembly. On foreign travel,
Chair.
Senator Gituku.
Ask the clerk maybe whether he can be able to ascertain whether he can be able to tell this committee whether he can be able to provide those documents, because I understand that that's a lot of money. That the chair, you are pronouncing yourself that that money has been stolen, and the consequences are dire. So I would maybe prefer, if it is possible, the clerk tell this committee whether he can be able to prove or to provide documents to support those allegations, because I know that the consequences might be there to whoever will be found guilty of the offense.
And those consequences, pass them to somebody else, because he has a responsibility to recover public money. It is your responsibility to recover where money was spent or money was paid and there was no accountability, because I suspect these amounts must have been impressed. Whose responsibility is it? It's impressed.
Yes.
Yeah. So this one, you cannot say there was another clerk before you. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You are the current clerk. 30 million was given out as impressed. It has not been recovered to date. It is your job to recover it. Just the same way it is a job of William Ruto to pay Kenya's debt. He cannot say it was taken by another president. It is your job to recover that money.
Yeah, what I can tell the committee here is, as my senator was saying, I have to go back to the office because these were 2 years, 3 years even before I became the clerk. I have to go there and retrieve this information.
Are you seeing this report today?
No, I haven't seen this report today, but I thought it was provided. The information was provided because this is 2 3
Who
years
was to provide the information if it was not the clerk of the assembly?
It was the former clerk and the finance director. That's what.
Forget about the former clerk. You are now the clerk of the County Assembly of Lamu.
So I assumed they had given. That one I'll tell you. But
they have given to who?
I had assumed that they had provided that information to the Auditor General.
But if they would have provided, you think the auditor is crazy to put it in his report? You can't make assumptions. Assumptions is a mother of all problems in this world.
Judge Crown, Chair, through you. When you are coming, have you consulted auditors on that? Because when you are talking of something past, and the current clerk is you who is coming to respond.
I did have a meeting with the auditor, yes. I did have a review with him.
I think you need to use a microphone.
Sorry, Madam Mushimo. I did have a review with the auditor before I came here. I think we didn't go through this year.
Then you have to carry this burden. It's not a matter of pushing to another person.
You've been clerk for how many years now?
3 years.
So for 3 years, you know that 13.9 million was spent on training activities, and yet there's been no supporting documentation. For 3 years. That cannot be the burden of the former. That is your burden. It only becomes a burden of the former if the former was a recipient. But the duty to recover and duty to account is with the accounting officer who is in office now. Now, the senator has intervened and asked whether you need time to provide the evidence. You have not addressed yourself to that. Because from where I sit, this matter has been outstanding for so long that even if we gave you more time, and please do not go and fake things. Do not go and fake invoices or tickets.
Chair, before he answers that question, I wanted to ask, before maybe he came into this committee or before he answered the queries that were presented to him, he had consulted the Auditor General. I wanted to know whether it is the Auditor General who advised you not to submit those reports.
OAG?
No. We had submitted, but they are not.
What were you consulting with the Auditor General about the same?
We discussed that the latest financial year, which was, I thought, because most of these were recurring queries, so the current financial year was supposed to cover all of that.
Did you discuss about this unsupported query that you are not able to substantiate? Did you discuss that with the Auditor General?
I will be very honest with the committee, no.
Sorry?
I didn't.
Through Chair, I think there is quite a few documents which was submitted to Auditor General, as far as I can see the file here. And Auditor General was talking about that he has seen the attached document, so we don't know what is his view maybe with the document that we have, because I can see there is a pile of documents here, the attendance, some work tickets, you know. So I don't know, maybe there is more documents which are not been attached yet, or the document, because Chair was just asking among the amount, have we managed to submit any document to recover some of the amount? And I can see there's some, you know, quite few numbers of documents. Chair was attached in that.
The documents account for how much? Can you tell us? Because they are your records.
14 million.
Out of?
14. 14 to 14.
Out of 14. This is
So the documents include, is there an invitation letter amongst the documents?
no, this was about
Yeah, a travel document.
yes,
What is the travel document attached?
work tickets, boarding passes.
Auditor General?
Mr. Chairman, the difficulty that we find with the documentation is that we raised a figure of 13 million, which by the time we were giving the management letter, they got a schedule of the 13 million, indicating the payment voucher number, the date, the amount, which amounted to 13 million. The difficulty that I find myself in is that now Appendix 3, and you have asked this question, how will I, to which payment will I align these documents to, so that I can say indeed out of the 13 million, then I can say 5 million has been addressed. So these documents do not, cannot be aligned with any amount that we are raising. And that's the challenge we have.
I think we gave some 14 days for clarification of certain records. Clerk and Speaker, take advantage of that 14-day window, explain to the Auditor General what the, whatever you've attached here, what it relates to. If that explanation is not available to the Auditor General in 14 days, we shall take the conclusion that we have made, that this was theft. The amount of money involved is 50 million. Under hospitality supplies and services, 3.1 million. Domestic travel and subsistence, 14.5 million. Training expenses, 13.9 million. And foreign travel, 19.7 million. The total amount involved is 51 million. 51 million is not small money. It's a very big percentage of your budget. And I think so far, we need to make it clear that we have cast serious doubt on the expenditure of 51 million on various impress-related activities in the financial year ended 30th June 2020. In the financial year ended 30th June 2022, we have also flagged 57 million of interest that cannot be accounted for, and we've also flagged 40 million in the form of mortgages that cannot be accounted for. That's a lot of money. That's more than 140 million. 140 million. If people heard that we are sending money to Lamu and 140 million cannot be traced, I think it will raise a serious outrage. And yet every year we are trying to give Lamu more money. So those 14 days, please provide that explanation. Otherwise, we will conclude that this was theft and the consequences shall follow. On the fixed assets register, we have discussed that and the need for the county to do the right thing. So auditor, keep that in view. The ownership documents for the Speaker's official residence. Mr. Speaker, you have an official residence?
Not yet. We haven't built, but we have a land.
So that's for the land?
Yes.
Do you have the ownership documents for the property?
Yes, we do.
Auditor General, you've seen that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's a copy attached, but we will verify when we get to the ground.
So keep it in view?
Yes.
Insufficient disclosure of assets, it goes down to the asset management policy.
Yes.
So when you are writing to Treasury, they will also give you the draft asset management policy so that you can use it for control of your assets. Under budgetary control and performance, we'll take the written response. Pending accounts payable, you had a pending bill of 4.2 million. Do you still have a pending bill in your books?
No. We don't have to.
On prior year issues, you have high wage bill. We have already discussed what we think about the regulations with respect to the assembly. Unused mortgage scheme, we have discussed the mortgage and the need for a value for money approach to it. Irregular subscriptions to SOCAT and CAF, we have already discussed that. Irregular disposal of assets. The Auditor General, is this matter still outstanding?
It is still outstanding.
What asset is this that the assembly disposed? 19 assorted fixed assets with a total book value of 3.5 million. Is it possible for us to see what the 19 assets were? And clerk of this, I'm looking for the report for 2019-2020, I've seen it. What were these 19 items? Clerk of the assembly. What are these 19 items that you disposed of irregularly? Mr. Clerk, can you read your response under that particular? What is your management response? Read it.
The County Assembly of Lamu takes compliance to the law seriously and improving the public disposal knowledge and capacity building with trained staff on matters pertaining to asset disposal and inventory management. Since the staff attend the training, we have improved our inventory management and asset disposal.
What are the 19 assorted assets that you disposed of? That is a question.
Okay, I don't have the figure with me here, but they were.
What were they?
We had 2 cars we gave to the executive, 2 SUVs we gave them to the county executive. Those are the 2 items.
What was the cost of each? What was the book value?
I don't have it off head here, but I can check on that. But
what were you responding to? Because this is a question that has been with you for the last 3 years. And that's what you should come to the Senate to tell us. I don't want stories. We don't want stories. You broke the law by disposing of assets worth 3.5 million. Now you're already talking of 2 vehicles. And I wonder whether 2 vehicles, even if you were to do valuation for 2 vehicles, 3.5 million sounds very low for vehicles. But those are just 2 out of 19. What are the other 17? Auditor General, do you have that schedule?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not able to retrieve the schedule, but I can easily get it when I get proper connection. I don't seem to have it here.
And was it in the management letter?
The issue was in the management letter.
So clerk, you should refer to the management letter and tell us what the Auditor General cited. Senator Mariam.
The Chair, when they are responding, I have not understood the query. The query is there is no record confirming that the reports on unserviceable, obsolete, or supply assets was made to disposal committee. That means there must be a procedure. But when you respond, it's totally different, which is totally different query. So, clerk, you are supposed to read between the lines so that you correctly answer to the question.
So, clerk, you look clueless about this and gives us a lot of doubts about your control of the situation in the County Assembly.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, this is an old issue, as you can see, 2019-2020. I was not even the clerk, and I'm not trying to run away from the position or from the responsibility.
Is it your position that the law was violated, but subsequently you have trained your staff?
We have really trained our staff on disposal.
But was there a violation of the law?
I cannot say if there was a violation of the law.
No, that's what you're supposed to tell us. You disposed 19 assets. Was that regular? That's where you start from, before you start talking about training. Public resources, you cannot sell, you cannot dispose of public resources against the law.
We never sold any item. No item was sold. It was just disposed to the...
What is your understanding of disposal?
My understanding disposal is either to throw it, to sell it, to give it somebody.
Yes. And is that, what framework guides that?
A disposal policy.
You have a public procurement and disposal of assets law.
Act, yes.
We have the Act. So you cannot operate outside the Act. That is anarchy.
I don't think we operate outside the Act. I don't think so.
So which provision of the Act did you use to give your vehicles to the executive?
I need time to go and look into this, Mr. Chair.
You are saying you didn't break the law, but you are not even sure of the law that governs that. Speaker.
Honorable Chair, if I can remember, last time I think we have submit such a document to the Auditor General, and we thought that this matter was already sorted out.
What did you submit to the auditor?
The 19 items, the whole file.
The issue is not the 19 items. On what basis of the law did you take that decision?
I think then we need to get the people who give that. There is a big, Chair.
You must, Mr. Speaker. We are dealing, and we have been sitting here since morning. If the law was violated, it was violated. The rest are stories. That's what we are here to establish. Was the law violated?
No, it was not violated, Mr. Chair. I don't think it was violated. We did within the law.
Which particular aspect or provision of the law? And where is that in your written response? Because you are telling us jabber stories of training. You are not addressing yourself to the 3.5 million. Where in your written response have you cited the law that was used?
For sure here right now.
So how do we arrive at a different conclusion? How do we know that these items are not in your house? How do we know that the speaker did not take a vehicle and went with it? How? Because all you are telling us is that you have taken your people for training. Training so that they stop stealing from the assembly? Because disposal without following the regulation is theft. That's a fidelity issue. So, honorable members, I do not see as reaching any other conclusion than to say that there was theft by servant in this case, which is a serious criminal offense, and we'll be allowing the agencies with the necessary capacity to pursue that. You come to Nairobi for this session to mitigate or to explain or to provide evidence to contradict what the Auditor General has highlighted. But you have come to Nairobi with a story. So this was theft if it was done outside the law. That then takes us to the next section, which is on controls, and the issues captured under controls are audit committee, which we've dealt with, internal audit, which we've dealt with, IT policy, which we've dealt with, and cash book management, which we have also dealt with. That brings us to the end of consideration of the Auditor General's report for Lamu County Assembly for the 2 financial years ended 30th June 2020, 30th June 2021, and 30th June 2022. I will ask whether there is any matter that we have not addressed in closing, or maybe just ask the Speaker on behalf of the delegation to make his closing remarks, and then I'll ask the Senator for Lamu also to make closing remarks on behalf of the Senate.
Thank you, Chair. On my side, I just want to appreciate that since we enter the building, the way we have been received, and on behalf of my delegation here, we want to give our sincerely thanks, and maybe I have something to say, and it might be not in the today's agenda, Chair, but I believe and I've been follow very keenly the current Senate, and there's so many reforms that it has been done by the current Senate. But I really want our Senate to look into the matter that whereby when things has been done by the outgoing officers or by the outgoing head of such institution, I think it will be fair enough, Chair, as a Senate, to come up with a law or policy or whatever it can come up with, so that when someone come in and there's a things that has been done by the outgoing regime, to me, I found that, sometimes I face a questions whereby I am not into the position to know what has happened. And I think it is fair enough for all of us. You cannot even punish someone who is not the one who did that offense, even in all laws, in all religion. So as a very sincere Muslim, these issues has been eating my head for so long. And I think it is the right time, Honorable Chair, and I believe in the current Senate that we must come up with a law that will protect the people who come in the office or in the leadership, whereby there is certain irregularities which has been done by the outgoing regime or the officers. I don't know how you can balance, but I hope you have understand my point, because sometimes it is not fair. Other leaders or other officers, they neglect the laws, they don't care, they're doing so much impunity, and when you come in as a new leader, you will end up inherit a lot of things which has been done incorrectly, and by the time you have able to clean that messy, you are already into the end of your term. So to me, honestly speaking, I don't know how we can help each other here, but as a country and as a counties, we must come up with the policies whereby, because today I was almost commenting here, Chair, that most of these things was done by the outgoing speaker and the outgoing clerk. I was nearly commenting here, say it's better the respective agency to come in and to follow these people and for them to answerable. How did they end up do such a thing? Because I believe, I was even talking with my director of finance here, telling her that I hope everything is in order. Because my report as a speaker, as a chair of, as a head of institution now, I came in 2022 as a speaker. So hopefully, and it is my big hope that when I come here to review next financial year, under the report that I was the head of this institution, a lot of things here are not going to be the way they are now. Because I'm trying to change things, I'm trying to bring the reform in the Lamu County Assembly, but I've been, for the last 2 years since I became the speaker, every time 2019, 2020, 2021 is in my head. And I don't know anything about it. So I'm just requesting, and I believe we have a very strong Senate this time, that you've been helping us assemblies a lot in so many matters, but I'm sure that you will be able also to find a way, and not only at the county assemblies, to help the county assemblies, but the entire country, the entire institution, the entire organs of the government, that we must come up with a law whereby when people done whatever they did and leave office, they must be answerable whatever they did when they were in those respective offices. Otherwise, Chair, I want to give my sincere thanks that we had a wonderful session, and I have learned a lot. And every now and then, whenever I come here, I get to learn more things to become a better leader or a better head of institution. And it is my sincere thanks to you as a chair and all the members, and even the secretariat and the clerks, even the other institutions which are here, that I've got so much knowledge today, and we will be able to be in a better position next time we are meeting here. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, and you are most welcome to Lamu. I've been inviting everyone, and you can never find a better host in Lamu than me. You can ask your colleagues who are there recently. You know, Lamu, as you say, is a beautiful place. It's one of the beautiful destinations in our country. So please, not even to come officially, you can even come also for a holiday with the family, and I'll be there to host you. I would love to host the honorable chairs, members, even the member of the staff of this house, and yeah, that's all, Chair.
We appreciate that, but let it.
I think, Honorable Speaker, you cannot walk away with pilot sword on your hands. There's a ceremony, a very important ceremony that takes place called a handing over ceremony. Who is the custodian of the office of the Speaker of Lamu?
The Speaker.
Is it you?
Now, yes, it's me.
Do you have access to all those documents?
Unfortunately, honorable member, there was not even a handing over when I won the election.
Okay, if there was no handing over, when you go to the office, did you do due diligence? Because if you look at Article 3, Clause 1 of the Constitution, you have an obligation to uphold and defend the Constitution. And the Constitution is about the rule of law. When you got into this office, did you do due diligence to establish that ABCD was in order?
That is what I've been doing for the last 2 years, honorable member.
And have you come across any misdemeanors or misuse of funds?
Not yet, honorable Senator.
Yeah, because, and if you look at the report, one of the exercises we do here is when you come with those documents and the Auditor General has asked you questions, you should be able to make the Auditor General look to reach a conclusion that money was lost or money was used effectively and lawfully. If you reach that position, then the person who was responsible will be pursued. If you look at Article 225, Clause 6 of our Constitution, it says that if public funds are lost in your hands, whether you hold a public office or a political office or you are a public servant, you are liable whether in office or not. So the question of liability is not what we are trying to establish when you come here. We are trying to establish whether money was used lawfully and effectively. And that one, you don't need to have been the person in office at the time. We are not shifting liability to you. What usually happens, sometimes people come here and they don't want to answer questions well because they want to cover up for their predecessors or whatever. But if you become open and enable us to establish that public funds were not used lawfully and effectively, that's why you have the EACC here and other things. So we hand it over to law enforcement and those individuals are followed. But if you don't help us arrive at that conclusion, then it becomes difficult. Then it becomes difficult for us to move. Your purpose here is not to carry liability. It's to bear responsibility as the office bearer and point the law enforcement to the direction they are supposed to go. So you should not be worried that we are trying to hold you liable. We're just holding you responsible as the custodian of the documents to tell us what went on and whether what happened was lawful or unlawful. Back to you, Chair.
So, Mr. Speaker, when you 2265, it summarizes what Senator Omtata has said. Senator Gituku.
Chair, I want to thank you because of this opportunity. Secondly, I want to thank also the delegation from Lamu for the submission that they have made. We understand, Chair, that there are some nitty-gritties that need to be resolved. And I want to thank Senator Omtata because of your kind advice that you have given to the Speaker and the Clerk of the County Assembly. You know, as you have said, most of the people, even my governor, the moment that he appears here, the kind of the audit queries that maybe he's supposed to answer, sometimes he thinks that it is not him that is supposed to be asked that question, but the fact remains that he is the person in the office. So therefore, he need to make sure that he helps this committee to ascertain whether money was lost. So the same thing should be translated to the County Assembly of Lamu. It is not that whatever you are being asked by the Auditor General, even if you are in office or not, we understand that it is not you who was in the office. But then you are requested to help this committee, as the Senator Omtata has said, so that if it is the former clerk, and whom I know very well, called Mr. Mboche, if he is the one that stole the money, there are some government agencies here that can be able to track him wherever he is, so that he can come back and pay that money and it be returned to the government of Kenya. So I am very happy that that advice has come from the Senator Omtata, and I believe that you will hold it very dear, so that next time when you are asked to come and answer some audit queries, either you are the one that was in the office or not, you will be in a position to help this committee ascertain whether the money was lost. I want to thank the team from the Auditor General because of the exemplary job that you are doing to make sure that you try to ascertain whether this money is being lost. But I want to tell you, Auditor General, you be very firm on the county executive of Lamu as well, because I believe that a lot of money is being misappropriated in Lamu County government. So I am very bitter about how the money is being used in Lamu. And next time I will be visiting your office so that we can have one-on-one talk and give you some secrets maybe you are not aware that are undergoing in Lamu County government. And I'm not happy because the governors are fighting that they be added some money. But when it reaches to the county assemblies, county government chair, that money is misappropriated. We don't see the value for money that we are taking to the county governments. We are very bitter as senators, and that thing, Chair, I know your committee is able to deal with such issues that are affecting our people. Because the moment now we send that money to the county government or we trickle that money from the national exchequer to the county government, that money is supposed to benefit the common mwananchi, who is currently in a big problem. And that's why maybe you end up seeing the Gen Zs coming out of streets to disturb us here even getting their way into this parliament, because they think that we are the one that misappropriates these funds. But it is not us. Sometimes it is the governors who does that, because I believe there is a very big loop of money that is taken to the county governments. Control of budget also, I know you are going to see to it that you do what is required, support and advise this county government and county assemblies so that they can be able to do what is right. And sometimes if they wamekikua kichwa ngumu, kindly let us know so that we can be able, we are the people that oversight these county assemblies and the county government. So it is good that if there is a problem, sometimes you forward that information to us so that we can be able even to furnish the chair of this committee with some information maybe which he may not be privy to. But having said that, Chair, I want to thank you, and I want to say that I'm very grateful that I have learned a lot also from this committee. Thank you very much, Chair.
Take seriously the revelations that you have, so that as a committee we can also proactively prompt institutions like EACC to carry out investigations on alleged areas of mismanagement. That brings us to the end of today's session. It's been a long day. This meeting is adjourned.
Ensara TV, Ekerenga Kyomogusi.